I was struck by this game that it would look at one point it was going to be a smash and grab one way when Garnacho scored. And then it turned out to be, in my view, a bit of a smash and grab the other way with Rice's goal. Am I being unfair that maybe a draw might have been a fair result?
I think that's fair. I think on 70 minutes, you're looking at the game thinking neither team were particularly convincing. You're thinking they both look like they're a long way short of Man City. They're not going to challenge for the title this year. Disappointing drop points. Then United scored the runaway goal, or the breakaway goal with Garnacho, which is ruled out. That would have been, interesting. And then Arsenal, again, breakaway. So the result doesn't really reflect the game or the performances of both sides, I don't think.
Arteta's not going to care because it's 3 points and Declan Rice is a new hero.
Yeah, new hero. Added time winner again. I think they've done that a few times last season. They did it again this season. I still think they were the better team. What was I thought very interesting is that Ten Hag after the game said, "We were the better team. We deserve to win." And after that said, "We were the better team. We deserve to win." So
okay,
someone was
on
lying.
this point, you know how I feel about performances over results? I actually have more sympathy for Arteta saying we are the better team because it's football. Football, do something with the ball.
Yeah, you actually attack. Yeah.
For Ten Hag to say we were the better team sounds incredibly diluted to me.
And said that it was a really good performance. I mean, on TV, certainly, it didn't look like that. I don't know in the stadium, but was that a good performance from United? Or very good, he said? Good performance?
No, it wasn't. It was better than last season. So basically, after the game, we asked Ten Hag, that is the 9th time in 11 games against top 10 teams away from home that they've lost. Yeah. So we said, look, you keep talking about how well you've played, but you lost again. Oh, well, that performance was better. Don't say that because we're playing better, but they still lost. It showed how bad they were last season. That was a better performance. It was slightly better, but United still a long way short in every department.
Yeah, I just to be clear, I thought both teams played well below their level.
It was not a great game.
It was not a good game. We had the excitement and the incidents at the end, which we'll get to. In fact, let's run through this quickly, just getting up and down. If necessary, we'll go through this more on the Gavin Juls podcast. But Ten Hag, very unhappy with Gabriel and Højlund. Jules, wrong?
I didn't think it was a pen. I thought Højlund lost control of the ball. If you lose control of the ball and you can't get it back,
and it's okay for the other guy to throw you to the ground. Okay.
No. I'm just saying.
I'm kidding.
Not have control of the ball is.
I agree with Jules. All these kind of post-match nitpicking over the events. I don't know. I think that no penalty.
All right, the Declan Rice goal. Now, Johnny Evans is the closest defender. By the way, we'll talk about Johnny Evans' cameo later. It's not good, but he's the closest defender. He doesn't get out to Declan Rice because he's tussling with Gabriel. Were the grounds for a review there?
No, because that happens at every corner, every set piece. You have to have some physical contact and some, jostling. That's what happens. You can't stop every game to give a penalty for a bit of pushing and shoving.
Jules, you agree with that, yeah?
I thought they were both at each other, so...
What would surprise me, too, is Evans with his experience, why don't you just get away from him once you see the ball's getting to Rice,
try to go and block the
try
shot.
to get there, rather than trying to make a point with Gabriel. All right, the Havertz one, we both agree in the end, not a penalty. Yeah, that went to VAR. They got that right. There's not much.
I think that he has to take evasive action from Wan-Bissaka's challenge. And some angles it looked like there may be a slight bit of contact from Wan-Bissaka.
I don't think there's any question that there's contact at knee level.
The reason why the referee didn't book him after reviewing it because he probably thought it was one of those where it wasn't a dive, but the contact may have been too slight for a penalty. Not everything's a dive and not everything's a foul, but if that had been given, I wouldn't have been too surprised.
Jules, you on board with that?
Yeah, I mean, we saw the Rashford one, the penalty Rashford got against Forest, for example, where again there was very minimal contact, but there was contact and it was given and not reviewed. So I think that it's the referee going again to check the screen and then seeing and then making a better decision for himself maybe, and then he reviewed it and thought, okay, it's not enough there.
Ten Hag not happy with the Garnacho one, but then they point out to him, it's semi-automatic offside.
He said it was the wrong angle, so the lines were wrong.
Yeah, okay, whatever. I'm just going to... Sometimes Ten Hag is a rough...
Did you like how Gabriel just tucked in his belly to just do the line?
Saka on Dala, you guys felt... Correct me if I'm wrong.
Bruno.
Oh, sorry, on Bruno. That could have been something, yeah?
Look, I mean, he went in, he missed the ball, and he stood up on his shin. So you've seen that being given as a red card. You have done. And whether it's because it's Saka, because it's at the Emirates, I don't know. That isn't his nature.
Spoiling the game, yeah. So we want to avoid that.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into this Sancho deal a little bit more closely. Mark, I think I summarized what Ten Hag said fairly accurately. Sancho takes to social media. What did he say?
Well, he said it was completely untrue and he's been made a scapegoat. He didn't directly say that Ten Hag has said he wasn't accusing Ten Hag of saying it was untrue or making him a scapegoat, but it was fairly obvious that Ten Hag had said these things, and an hour later, Sancho comes out and says he's been made a scapegoat. Now, I've been told that United feel a little bit let down by Sancho in the sense that they really looked after him last season, made sure he got all the care he needed and all the time away from the club when he had his issues off the pitch. And it hasn't really been repaid since then, certainly in the summer. There's a sense that he doesn't train well. And he's not the first player not to train well. We know that we spoke about people like Carlos Tevez, who notoriously trained badly in the week but performed at the weekend. Now, if Sancho's not training well and not playing well, that's a problem. So Ten Hag may have said he didn't match his standards. Sancho may feel that he met his own standards. But if there's a gap in standards, that's the issue.
Okay, so, Jules, to me, there's one point that Sancho seems to be missing, right? If you train all week and you're not injured and the manager doesn't put you in his match day 18, it's because he believes you haven't trained or performed well enough to be in the match day 18, right? So you can't call Ten Hag. Well, maybe right, maybe wrong in Sancho's view. Maybe he feels he deserves to be there. But Ten Hag makes it. You can't say Ten Hag is wrong for making a judgment and expressing an opinion on Sancho.
Yeah, I know, but it depends what the level of training or what the training level is. Sancho might feel that he trained well.
But other guys train better, so they're better options.
And Ten Hag feels that, well, no, that was not good enough for what I want you to do or for what I expect my players to do in my training sessions, so that's not good enough. You stay home this weekend, I drop you.
You see, this time last year we had the same situation with Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, same issues that Ten Hag thought it wasn't. When he left the ground early, pulled him up, said, right, you're not doing that. He was very quick to say, these are my standards. If you don't meet them, no matter who you are, you're not playing. Marcus Rashford was dropped at Wolves for oversleeping and missing a team meeting. So if Jadon Sancho feels he's being almost victimised, well, he has to look back and think, well, he's taken out Cristiano Ronaldo, he's dealt with Marcus Rashford, both players bigger reputations, better performers than he is. So Sancho probably needs to look at himself a little bit and think, well, why is it always happening to me?
I think.
Sorry, Gab, before you go on, England have had issues with him as well. This time a year ago, he was left out of a squad because of timekeeping. So it's a recurring theme with Jadon Sancho.
I think these situations are a bit different, though, because Rashford was a disciplinary issue for breaking team rules, Cristiano, he left the ground early when he didn't come on, and I think it was an open secret that they wanted to move him on, which eventually they did, canceling his contract. It's not the situation with Sancho. They're not going to cancel Sancho's contract because it would cost them an absolute mint.
But is it right for a manager to expose him like that and throw him under the bus? Ten Hag could have said a lot of things like, he didn't feel great this week, anything, instead of just saying, like, clearly he's rubbish, he doesn't train well, and so I literally drop him.
That, to me, is the issue here, Jules, because it's unusual for a manager to come out and say this unless it's something where we're pushing him out the door like they tried to do with Cristiano, whatever. That, especially, the window's just closed. Let me go and throw this guy under the bus.
Well, this is the issue because there was some United were prepared to let Sancho go. And there were some suggestions there was an interest in him last week that he wasn't open to accepting Sancho. So if United found a club and he wasn't willing to go, then Ten Hag would be unhappy about that. But you're right. It was September the 3rd yesterday. The window's just closed. You've got a player that you can't shift until January unless he goes to Turkey or Saudi Arabia, which neither seem an option. So for me, there's no way back for Sancho because he's completely defied his manager and gone against him publicly. How does Ten Hag bring him back in when there's clearly a breakdown of trust there? So you've got now, 3-4 months of this player just, sulking, I guess, because he's not been picked, and Ten Hag sticking to his guns. Because I don't see who backs down here. Sancho's come out and said what he said. Ten Hag isn't going to back down. And, because if he backs down, then having criticised Rashford and Ronaldo publicly in the past, it's a sign of weakness on his part. So I see no way back for Sancho.
What a fiasco this has been.
You heard it here first. Sancho back on loan to Borussia Dortmund in January with United paying the bulk of his wages. Would that not solve the situation?
He's on very big wages.
And why would Dortmund take him? Who's going to take him now?
Well, because Dortmund, will you be big on the Adeyemi brand?
But it doesn't matter even the players that you have. Like, you think, okay, this is a player that will not play between now and January, or hardly play. He might play a bit in the...
Okay, all right.
No, but you know what I mean? Who's going to take that gamble?
I was joking.
He's had 2 bad years. They overpaid for a player that nobody else wanted.
But that's why I think a loan solution is the only... we've seen this happen, right? Is the only way out.
He was really good at Dortmund the last season. There was a time where he was really, really good. Yeah. So he can be good, but there's clearly a lot of baggage too.
Let's talk about the approach to these two teams. Jules, you foreshadowed it when you said they got to go back to last year's back four, or just because of the personnel issues that are there. Mm-hmm. And we saw that. Gabriel came back, much to everybody's joy. Those mean people who wanted to send him away didn't get their way. He's still there, right? In some ways, I thought it would have an impact when I saw, okay, now Zinchenko can go and pull strings because, especially when it became obvious that United were just going to sit really, really deep. But weirdly, the way I saw the game develop was, all right, United sat deep. They actually had a lot of the ball because Arsenal weren't pressing them super aggressively, maybe because they were concerned about, the big ball over the top of Rashford.
I think so.
Which is obviously how United scored, incidentally. Exactly. Although, by the way, that was a great finish from Rashford.
Yeah,
Still a ton to do, and I would also really question Ben White.
Yeah.
Because when you've got a player behind you, you have to go engage. Saliba's right behind him. There's no reason why he can't go in.
So Saliba, as much as I love him, and as much as he's one of my boys, I think Saliba is anticipating Rashford to come onto his left foot. So Saliba is moving behind White, almost waiting for Saliba to, instead of coming onto his right foot, to come onto his left foot. I still think, I know Rashford can go both ways. I still think that right now, like today or yesterday in the game, there's more chances for Rashford to come inside onto his right foot to shoot the way he does. So is Saliba right to take that position behind White, almost waiting for Rashford to come on his left foot, or actually standing next to White? So I'm facing you, and Oggy is Saliba, I'm White, you Rashford Gab. You're facing us. If you go on the right, Saliba is there or Oggy is there to block that shot. And if you go on your left, White is here. And I'm not sure Saliba is right to come behind White in case Rashford comes onto his left foot.
I think these are the things they work on. I think Saliba expects White to engage Rashford in that situation. White should expect that too, because he doesn't have eyes on the back of his head. He doesn't know which way Saliba's moving. He just knows that Saliba's there.
Maybe.
You know what? If both of them stand up, Rashford's going to try to go between them, and you're probably going to give up a penalty.
White should take him out to the left. White should do more to take him away from the danger zone. White's a bit too passive.
It's still a tremendous. He still had a ton to do,
finish.
And it's still a tremendous finish. But what's your take on the approach that they took? I mean, I just expected them to be more aggressive, to go and challenge. It's back there. It's Wan-Bissaka, it's Lindelof, it's guys like that at the back. But we didn't see that. No,
I think they were a bit fearful of the ball from Eriksen and the ball from Bruno over the top for Rashford, and to some extent maybe to Martial as well. I think they started well, and Martinelli on Wan-Bissaka one-on-one worked really well, so they wanted to feed the ball great. But after that, I think the game last season was quite a similar game, to be fair, the 3-2 win when Nketiah scored late. And Arsenal kind of had a similar approach, and I don't think United did much more attacking this time than they did last year either. So I would not question so much Arsenal lack of pressing or we're not aggressive enough in their press. I just thought that they knew that United were not going to attack much, so maybe you don't need to go and press too high, because otherwise you expose yourself to long balls, I guess. It's disappointing though. After you bring in Havertz, you go 4-1-4-1. Yeah, but what are you controlling? You don't even have the ball. I mean, look at the possession stats on the first half. Yeah, right? But I mean, look, maybe it was also the heat. It was a rare. It wasn't that hot. It was just very sunny. I'm giving you excuses.
Look, I think
United. But can I say something? Is this what Ten Hag refers to when he says he managed to? He said they played really well, because ultimately they controlled the pace of that game. They made Arsenal play the way United wanted them to play.
Yeah, but then United didn't do enough to take advantage. I don't think United know how they want to play. They can't go away from home and kind of kill a game or just contain a game. And they aren't good enough to be proactive and attack the game and kind of dominate the game. I think both teams yesterday look like teams that are still working out how to play with their new players. They don't know what to do with Havertz, Arsenal. Arsenal don't know what to do with him. He doesn't know what to do in that system. But United equally have got this goalkeeper which they're completely unfamiliar with in terms of how he wants to come much further out of his goal, pass around the back, and they don't quite know how it works. And I think Arsenal are a bit further ahead in the learning curve than United are. United look a team that they don't know what to do at the moment. They haven't got the quality to play like Man United should do in terms of attacking away from home. But then we're speaking to Jules beforehand. I mean, the confusion when you watch Wan-Bissaka pushing up and almost playing like a false nine, and Bruno Fernandes dropping in at right back up against Martinelli. I mean, why is Wan-Bissaka being given license to get that far up the pitch? Because he can't use the ball. Just stick him at right back. I don't understand that. It's confusing.
Clearly. And then we go back to the recruitment then, because if that's what Ten Hag wants, if he wants fullbacks who can come into midfield like that, like Stones or Trent or Zinchenko, those kind of players, or Cancelo, this is not Wan-Bissaka, and I don't think the players around are that comfortable either. So then, have you signed the right players?
Yeah, we can't put that one on Ten Hag because that was one of the 804 right backs in the system.
But whether it's Wan-Bissaka or sign another right back, but the recruitment for Ten Hag spending is over 400 million. Yeah. They still finish with a back four of Dalot, Maguire, Evans, and Wan-Bissaka. I'm sorry, but for Manchester United, it's not good enough. I know there's injuries, but I don't want to see Johnny Evans playing for United anymore. Neither Harry Maguire.
I mean, the Arsenal fans are chanting Harry Maguire's name yesterday. That is the peak of a humiliation for Harry Maguire. The world's the Arsenal fans are chanting his name, mocking him almost, and that's really bad for Man United and Harry Maguire. That's happening.
Okay, so on United's recruitment, you said at the start of the summer that they had 120 million to spend, plus whatever they could raise through sales. I haven't done the math, but I think you were pretty much spot on in that the numbers all worked out. That whoever gave you that line was clearly very, very well informed.
Thank you.
They would have spent a little more, I think, had they managed to shift Harry Maguire. Yeah. That didn't happen.
Sorry? Or McTominay.
If
you get 40 for Maguire, 30 for McTominay, you've got 70. It's another centre back of very good quality.
Or Martial while we're at it.
But McTominay and Maguire, there was a market for them, surely.
I don't know about the McTominay market to what degree that is.
They could have shifted.
What complicated United's summer is the goalkeeper. Now, rightly or wrongly, they were hoping that De Gea would stay. And I think they made the right call by moving him on. But because he left, they had to find £40 million for Onana, which obviously affected what they could do in terms of...
Plus another $5 million for Bayern.
Well, exactly, yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about who they did bring in. We got our first glimpse in the Premier League of Rasmus Højlund.
Very
nice. You excited?
Yeah, very nice. I thought there was a couple of really good touches. If we need to score goals, linking up the play is not going to be enough for a club like United. So if he's clinical enough...
Okay, wait, not going to be enough. Given he's only 20... I'm going to play devil's advocate here, Mr. Contrarian. Last season, they had a striker who just linked up the play and didn't score many goals. And then they had Martial, who also didn't score many goals.
You're talking about Weghorst?
Yeah.
And Weghorst didn't link the play.
Okay, but that's what they tried to get him to do, moving him deep or whatever, right? And despite all this, despite all you guys mocking Weghorst and despite Martial's issues, they said Rashford scored 1 million goals and they finished third in the Premier League, right? So we all agree Højlund is better than Weghorst and Martial and whatever.
Yeah, but before you don't spend that money on someone who's just going to link a play.
No, but maybe he's going to score goals later. Even if he just links up play, I'm saying is you're already well ahead of where you were last year, right? At least in that department.
He's given United a different option. Obviously, it was 20 minutes yesterday. But what he did, he was aggressive, he was persistent, and he worked hard. Now, they're basic qualities, but United haven't had those, certainly with Anthony Martial. So he really roughed up the Arsenal defence. And when he was the second balls were dropping off into Bruno, which again United haven't had. So Bruno and Eriksen had this ability from that point in the final third to pick a pass. It gives United a higher platform. So he's helping United's attacking game. You're right, he has to score goals, but
he said that.
Well, yeah. I mean, any striker has to score goals. But from what I saw yesterday, he's changed the way that they play and he gives them more aggression. And I made this point last week, but United's away record certainly is down to the fact that the forwards don't work hard enough. Martial doesn't work hard enough, Anthony doesn't, and Marcus Rashford doesn't. I think with Højlund, he works much harder. And that was one big thing that Ten Hag wanted when he brought a striker in. He wanted a striker who would press from the front, be tenacious, worry defenders, and he's done that. The big question is, will he score enough goals? And that, who knows? I mean, he's only 20, like you say. It's a big question if he'll score the goals.
It's true.
They finished third last season. I'm just going to remind you guys of that. And he's an upgrade.
Right. Is Marcus Rashford going to score another 30 goals?
Why not?
Yeah, but why he doesn't? 2 goals are going to come. Last season, Rashford had an incredible season, which is he's that talented. But he saved them on many occasions because he was the only one of that four.
Nearly saved them on Sunday too.
Yeah, but on that forward line, he was the only one.
Yeah.
When he stopped scoring last season, United stopped winning.
Exactly.
No,
so it's not enough.
I'm not saying Højlund doesn't need to score at all, but I'm saying is Højlund can have a great season scoring 10, 15 goals if he does all the other things, and United will be a better team. Yeah. That's the only thing. And I don't want to go to the end of the season and say like, oh, look, they paid $75 million for him. He's 20 years old, and he hasn't scored 25 goals.
The way he plays, he might encourage 15 goals from Mount and Fernandes.
Exactly.
So that is a big add because nobody was doing that last season.
In terms of the other 2 late arrivals, Reguilon, I know what you guys are going to say. It's just a body. You guys are not Sergio fans, right?
No, I had forgotten that he was still playing football. So.
Look, they were backed into a corner. The choice was Reguilon Cucurella or Marcos Alonso.
I was available as well. I could play left back if
they
you
didn't have a good choice. So
I don't know about you defending. You're more of an attacking player, Jules.
I know,
that was all they had. So you can't really blame him for that. Because
and so we were just deciding Reguilon can't go back to being the player he was 2-3 years ago.
You can. But it's hard if you're a United fan to see the number 3.
Okay. Also, if you're a left back
choice.
searching for form and confidence, that is the wrong team to do it in. That defence. If you're a player that needs a bit of confidence building up, don't go to Man United's back four.
I'll give you that one. That's without question. Yeah. Amrabat, we're more bullish on as long as, look, I said this on the show, like, as long as you don't expect World Cup Amrabat to show up. But
why not?
Because that was distilled in 4 or 5 games. He doesn't play at that level week in, week out. But what he does give you is he's a very smart player. He's a great leader. He's a fighter. And he's got a ton of personality in the middle of the park. But he's not the second coming of Brian Robson and Roy Keane rolled into one. The way some people were presenting him and the way he looked at times in Doha. Yeah?
Yeah.
So he still
he's a better team. I even expect him to raise his level too. So
all the qualities you mentioned then are exactly what United need. They need that kind of personality, that leadership, that aggression. So that's what he brings, and that makes them better before he's even kicked a ball.
So you play him and Casemiro together?
Well, I don't think that's what he wants to do, and I think if you do that, you take a step back because then you turn into even more of a counter-attacking team. I mean, presumably Eriksen and Mount, who are passers, who are better passers than Amrabat, presumably they're part of Ten Hag's vision. So I assume he has one, right? So I see him more as somebody who gives Casemiro a break in certain games, can come on and affect games off the bench when you need him. And then in certain games, when you do want to go with 2 defensive midfielders, and look, Amrabat's not just a defensive midfielder, but when you want to go for the more solid setup, you can play both of them, away from home against certain teams, whatever. I don't have a problem with United playing on the counter some of the time. I just don't want to get this to be a habit where we see this big pile of turds that we saw because this is not what Ten Hag. I go back to this. This is not what Ten Hag did at Ajax. This is not what got him the United job. They still have to be moving in that direction of the football he wants to play. And frankly, with Antony in there, with some of these choices, they're still really, really, we were talking about this earlier, Mark. They're far away from...
It's going to take a long time because since he arrived at the club, I think 18 and 19 players have left. A lot of players that have gone on to do absolutely nothing since. Jesse Lingard, Juan Mata, Cavani, Pogba even. So he's had to do a massive clear out. He's brought in 10, right? So it's going to take a lot of time. But obviously, they need a bit of patience. And it doesn't help Ten Hag's cause that part of that patience revolves around people like Antony, who he really pushed the boat out to sign. So some of his signings haven't been great. But you have to accept that the absolute dross that he inherited, and there's still quite a bit of dross there. Donny van der Beek, who else are they trying to get rid of this week?
Eric Bailly.
Eric Bailly. I mean, these players that have got Harry Maguire, that have got no future at Man United. It's going to take a lot of time to get rid of them, but you can't have all the time in the world.
Okay. Is there a parallel universe where Mason Greenwood doesn't get in trouble, and where Jadon Sancho lives up to his price tag? And Ole, who had finished second the year before, sticks around, and United are... Does that parallel universe exist?
No, because you mentioned Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and as a coach, he had no clue tactically.
So that's only in your head.
All right, good. Final point. I don't want to be a stickler for kits, but... And I know it's not a big deal. Normally, I really don't care. The only thing that bugs me is when people wear their second kit when there's no clash, like we saw in the Women's World Cup final, whatever. But this thing that United were wearing is absolutely horrible. Are you going to tell me there's some sort of historical reason for this?
Well, I asked someone from United yesterday, what is that kit all about? And the person I asked rolled their eyes and said, it's something to do with some tradition way back. And they didn't know what it was about. It's some Adidas, manufactured idea that there was, back in the day, some industrial kind of colour in Manchester was green and it reflects that. It's rubbish. Just go to a traditional kit. You're telling me that fans will not buy a traditional...
Do you know how bad it looks on television? You watch the game on television, right? To me, it looked as if there were a bunch of black and white players against in like a full color environment. It was like some kind of
really
weird acid trip.
Yeah, it was.
It's like a weird Newcastle kit.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I made this point earlier on that Chelsea unveiled Cole Palmer on Friday. Welcome to Chelsea, in their new away kit. It's blue. Chelsea have got a blue away kit. Well, hang on a minute. The people who design these kits don't realise that Chelsea's home kit is blue. So when they play Everton away, what are we going to wear this weekend? We've got to
third kit.
Let's wear our away kit. Oh, it's blue. Just go back to let the fans get involved. Let the fans have a say in what the kits look like.
They have a very nice third kit, which is gingham and polka dots.
Lovely.
Relatively, reliably informed.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.